as you heard, my name is Junior Mintt, and I'm beyond excited to get to speak with you all today because I myself had a very unique experience studying and then working as a scenic designer. Because for me, being a black trans woman, I have so many stories I could tell you about. I could tell you about the fact that I went to Emerson College, and the first show I ever saw there that they produced, there was only one black person in the cast, and they were playing a maid. I could come out here and tell you about how the second show I saw that Emerson College produced that I got to see, the only black person in the cast was playing an enslaved person. Or I could come out here and I could talk to you all about the transformative ass experience that I had getting to watch a production of For Colored Girls. But all of those examples, I'm completely sure that you all have heard before. And so my question for you is, what do all of these examples have in common? Connection. When we come to a theater and we sit down in a seat to suspend our disbelief, we are doing that in the hopes of finding connection. Connection to ourselves, connection to a perspective of seeing the world, connection to your community, connection to a community that you may not have even known that much about. And whenever I think about that, it always reminds me of why I actually got into technical theater. And I mainly got into it because it is the connection between all art forms, from the visual of lighting, scenic, and costumes, to the intangible of sound design, to the emotion and the movement of acting, singing, and dancing, all coming together, interconnected, to create a world or a universe that we feel like we could live in, or teach us about a world we wouldn't want to live in. And for me, in all of my experience of over the experience of being in theater, the connection for me is what always lasts the longest for me. Because when it comes to, you will notice that as I talk about all of the connection, as I talk about what theater actually means, you'll notice that what does not come up in that conversation is money. Because in the design tech lab at Emerson College, we had a saying that if you got into theater in order to make a lot of money, you better get a refund right now. And so I would like to do a little experiment with you all, okay? So this will require you to use your voice. So I hope you all warmed up, but it's Broadway, so I'm assuming y'all stay ready, okay? So if you got into theater to make a lot of money, make some noise right now. Now, if you got into theater to make people feel something, whether happy, sad, or that same emotion that you felt the first time you connected to a piece of theater, make some noise. And that right there should tell you what is truly at the heart of what theater is. Because for me, that moment just reminded me of the first time I saw that first show at Emerson. And I sat down at the end of it and looked at the stage with thousands and thousands of dollars worth of lighting, staging, and rehearsal time, all spent to depict black people in pain. And then I looked around at the audience, and I noticed a majority of white faces that probably assumed that because they had spent $60 on a ticket, or they went to Emerson College, which is a great theater program, they were guaranteed to get that connectiveness from whatever they were seeing on the stage. And as a black trans woman who grew up below the poverty line with every form of insecurity, from food to housing just to safety, I can tell you that the places that we call the margins is where the most connectiveness actually is. Because it wouldn't be until my second year at Emerson in the fall that I would actually see the first piece of theater that I ever saw that I truly connected to. And it was this production of For Colored Girls, but not put on by Emerson College. It was produced by an all women of color acting troupe that was created that year on campus. And it was created for all of those actresses to create the roles that they wanted to see themselves in, to dream up the world that they wanted to live in. And most of the people in the acting troupe, their name was Flawless Brown, most of them were already my friends, so I was already gonna be at the show. I was already ready. So I put my little $10 down. Yes, only $10, honey. Yes. And I got into my best liberal arts couture, okay? Which, yes, at the time it was a pair of Adidas, non-wrinkled jeans and a crop top, honey. We've elevated, we've elevated. And I made my way over to where the production was happening in the back of a dorm. in a room that we called the multi-purpose room. Yes, yes, and the multi-purpose room, I'm sure that you can assume, served multiple purposes on campus. And so it would sometimes be used for performances, sometimes it would be a conference room, sometimes it was an arts and crafts night for the RAs. And but when it came to performances, they would take two 4-foot by 8-foot platforms, smush them together and up against the wall, and that was the stage. They would use the 4 to 8 lighting fixtures that were already hung there, and that would be used for the lighting and the house lighting. And I took my seat on a hard plastic conference chair, the type that squeaks too much if you move. And I was surrounded by about 35 to 40 other people. Mind you, that was the room's capacity. So when I tell you, it was a production that was against the odds. And for the first time sitting in that space, I felt the electricity in the room. I felt the feeling that other people had explained to me that I never experienced myself. And looking back, I can now realize that what I was feeling was connection. When I tell you, it was one of the most visceral moments of my life because when you think about the impact this show has, a group of about 40 people, ranging from high schoolers to elders, with every shade of melanin in between in the audience, on a Friday night in Boston, chose to be in the back room of a dorm to see a production of For Colored Girls together. And we were all in the same boat looking for the same connection, no matter where it actually may end up being. And so I was bewildered when the lights went down and the performance happened, because for me it was an hour and 45 minutes of artistry and community. And for me, as soon as the show ended, I was bawling, crying, running out of the multi-purpose room. And I was stumbling and scrambling for my phone in order to try to call my mom, because for me, I like to think that that was one of the first moments that I realized I was a trans woman. Because for me, I was crying to her, telling her, I think I finally saw myself on stage. I think I finally saw myself reflected. And then on top of it, I think I finally just saw you reflected as well in that. And for me, that is what connection can truly do. And for me as well, it's easy to lose sight of what theater truly is and why we do it when the biggest conversations are the biggest name celebrities on a bill, or the most intense choreography, or just having the biggest budget possible. Because connection has nothing to do with money or notoriety. It has everything to do with love, emotion, and people. Because looking back, I truly like to believe that through all of the depictions of blackness that I had seen on the stage, I didn't connect with it for a reason. And when I think about the fact that I didn't connect to a piece of art that's supposed to be about me until a group of determined women of color invited me to their production of For Colored Girls, where with 4 feet by 16 feet of stage space and 4 to 8 lights, they made me feel something in a space that I was told was always meant for me. And that was the first time it had ever happened to me. And one of the most important things that I can even think about addressing for you all is the fact that where money is not always where true theater will reside. And my advice for any person who is in the audience who is in the privileged position of getting to produce a show of any variety is that there is no amount of money that can buy you connection. Connection must be earned. And your audience always knows whether you deserve it. As you're sitting in these important meetings where you're planning out your season and you're also allocating funds, try this. Cutting your marketing budget in half and not spending that money, but investing that money into building and supporting a community around your production. In the meetings that you are sitting in, try transforming the conversations around the biggest name celebrity that you can book and the flashiest prop that you can create, and actually utilize that time to discovering and supporting artists who have already built and are supporting the community that you're already hoping to come. And so, just understand that when you stop trying to force a connection, you gift yourself the beautiful opportunity to find the one that has already been there. Thank you.